Good morning, Lourdes.
Good morning, Maria. How are you?
I'm doing very well today. Much
Oh,
better than yesterday.
good. What was going on yesterday?
I was returning from traveling,
Mm.
so and it wasn't a big trip or anything, but I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot of energy being expended in travel for sure.
Yeah. So welcome back, everyone, to Coaching Conversations. I'm Maria Sabio.
And I'm Lourdes Sleeper. Thanks so much for joining us. And be sure to watch to the end where we leave you with some practical practices. Today, we're diving into something that hits close to home for so many of us: owning our growth and not hiding behind excuses.
Yeah, so many times we think, oh, I'm just not wired for that, or I don't have that kind of talent. Um, but really, what if those things aren't real reasons that are holding us back, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much power in recognizing that many of the qualities that truly matter, like kindness, endurance, dignity, are choices that we make every day. They're not things we're born with or without, right? So, let's be real. Many of us use the phrase "I wasn't made for this" or "I'm not good at this" to avoid pushing ourselves. And it's like a safety net to dodge responsibility or discomfort. And, psychology backs this up with what Dweck calls the growth mindset. It's the belief that even if you're not naturally gifted at something, your abilities can develop with effort and persistence.
It's really a freeing mindset because it shifts the focus from the fixed traits like I'm just shy or I'm not smart enough to what you can actually control, your choices, your habits, your efforts. And our brain supports it supports this. It's neuroscience, it's neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to rewire itself based on what we practice. So we can the kindness and patience and self-control, there are neural muscles that we can nurture and grow with practice.
Yeah, and that really is the key. Anything that you don't feel that you're good at right this minute,
Mhm.
if if you think of it like a garden, you don't get the flowers overnight, but with the daily watering and tending, the garden thrives. And your character is no different, and your abilities are no different either. You can cultivate these qualities and integrate them into who you are simply by like choosing to improve in an area as opposed to limiting yourself and putting yourself in a box. You can always choose things like candor and dignity, endurance, kindness, self-reliance. Those are all up to you, and it's not a talent or a gift, it's a choice.
Right, right. So when we complain about our nature or blame our upbringing, we're ignoring our power to pivot, to choose. And I love what Epictetus says. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it. Your actions and mindset are really your power moves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how we react to a circumstance, that's our choice. But so many people get stuck in that mindset of, this happened and that made me, behave in a certain way. But nothing makes you behave in a certain way. It's always a choice. And the flip side, is when we cling to excuses. I can't help being grumpy, or I'm, naturally selfish. We're basically choosing to stay stuck. And it's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it, because anyone can cultivate virtues. So that if there's a strength that you admire in others, you can cultivate that for yourself. So if you like people who are kind or in control, then set that intention and practice it, right?
Right, right. I was thinking that, you know, something happens to us, and when that happens to us, we choose a certain response. And, a lot of our choices are made when we are very young. We're kids, basically. We're, under the age of the real ability to reason, and definitely under the age of having the capacity to understand everything that's going on, especially adult relationships. And I think that sometimes people say, if something had not happened, I wouldn't be choosing, I wouldn't be choosing like this. But with the growth mindset, people can choose, go back and say, if I had to do it again, I would choose this. And that opens the door so that you start to realize that, yeah, even though I chose that, I think this would have been a better choice for me. Can I choose that now? Right? Because some things, even though you can't change the past, you can change what you're choosing to adopt as a new strategy. You can always change your strategy. And that's one of the things about being able to pivot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When we go back and, like you said, rethink what would have been a better choice, we're also changing our relationship to the past, which is, another power move, right?
Right, right. And, positive psychology shows that people who develop these virtues, they tend to have, better relationships, more resilience, and greater life satisfaction. It's really a win-win to cultivate these virtues and to cultivate the ability to pivot. But, um, you know, growth isn't easy. It's uncomfortable. It forces us to face parts of ourselves we'd prefer to avoid. And sometimes it just feels safer to blame the situation, to blame other people, to blame ourselves for our inabilities, or being slow. And it's easier to do all of that than to admit that we haven't done the work, or that we don't want to suffer, even if suffering is really temporary. And if we could look at the fact that it's very temporary and that the past is already gone, what we're just looking to do is to expand our reasoning and our choices, our options, to continue to get new strategies, because that's what we need to do if we want to be happy in life, right?
Yeah, and this idea that growth isn't easy, it's uncomfortable. It's because we're stepping into the unknown, right? It's this unfamiliar, this unknown, and we're stepping in. Really, it's a growth zone. So if it's uncomfortable, so if we're in comfort and now we're in the uncomfortable, we can have we can reframe it as being in your growth zone. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but I'm growing from this, right? And
Right.
and knowing that there's a reason for it, and that you can endure through, that you can cultivate the capability to endure the uncomfortableness, the discomfort of it all, in order to grow. And that's also where self-awareness comes in. When we see these mental blocks and stop clinging to our faults and limitations and hiding behind them, that's the first step towards change. Mindfulness is a really powerful tool here, and noticing without judgment the excuses that we're making for ourselves and keeping ourselves kind of safe and small. We can notice that without judgment, and also then choose a different response.
Right. It really is about saying, okay, yes, I might be slow to learn, but I'm going to be consistent. Or I'm struggling with whatever, with patience, but I'm going to keep trying. It's that daily decision to invest in who you want to be rather than who you think you are right now. So, we want to give you some daily practices, and how do you stop excusing yourself? How do we stop excusing ourselves and start owning our growth? So let me shift here and go to our daily practice.
Yes. So with step one, choose a virtue or personal quality that you want to strengthen. Maybe it's kindness, maybe it's self-reliance, and then set tiny daily goals related to it and write one small action towards it daily. And step two, notice your self-talk. This is so important. How you speak to yourself is really worth looking at. And when you catch yourself saying, I'm just not good at that, or challenge it, replace it with I'm learning, progress matters, and reframe it into a growth focused thought.
Absolutely. And, of course, we like to remind you that journaling for, even for 5 minutes about a recent situation where you chose growth over comfort. It's such a great practice to, even if you don't have an actual journal, that you take a piece of paper and you write something down, because it's reinforcing it in your mind. And you'll have to practice self-compassion, because change isn't linear. You'll slip up. That's normal. I mean, and most things aren't linear. I mean, the stock market, it's not linear. It goes really up, sometimes really fast, depending on what's going on. And sometimes it slams down. But a lot of times there's a lot of, up and down in a range. It's not nothing, almost nothing is linear, and you're going to slip up, and that's normal. What matters is you get back up. You fall 5 times, you get up 6, and you use kindness towards yourself, and practice simple mindful check-ins daily to notice your thoughts without judgment, right? And one quote that we want to remind you of, Carol Dweck: becoming is better than being. It's the commitment to growth, not perfection, that shapes a meaningful life. So stop letting "I wasn't made that way" hold you back. You've got the power to choose kindness, dignity, and resilience every single day.
Yeah. And, that's the best kind of strength, the kind that builds a life that you can be proud of. Thanks so much for being here with us. We're walking this path right alongside you. Take care of your mind, take care of yourself, and please support our work by liking, following, and subscribing.